Hello, good evening, parents. I just want to introduce myself because there are some parents here who will be joining us, joining the school next year. So you might not know who I am. Some parents may know who I am, some may not. But the simplest way is just to say very good evening to you all. I'm Mr. Williams. I'm a year two teacher and a very keen skier. And I led the ski trip last year. So we had this trip pretty much exactly the same last year. And I sort of helped organise and run that with very ably assisted by Mrs. Farr and Mrs. McCabe Arnold, amongst others as well, and a whole load of staff too. But that's kind of who I am. Been at the school for goodness, 7, 8 years, I think, something like that. So a little while. But very keen, very excited to be able to talk to you this evening about the ski trip or the potential upcoming ski trip that's going to be happening in March next year. So it's towards the end of the spring term. I'll give you exact dates as we go on through this these slides and this meeting as well. But welcome everybody, and there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions as well. Hopefully I'll be able to answer all of those. If not, then I promise I'll make a note and come back to you as well. So just to be clear, what we do, it's not something that I am not a trained ski instructor. We use a very brilliant tour company called Snowstyle, and they provide all the instructors, and they obviously help with the arrangements and the logistics of the trip as well. But the instructors are not Surbiton High School Girls Prep staff. They are fully trained, fully qualified ski instructors that Snowstyle train up, and they've passed through all sorts of different qualifications to get to where they are. And the instructors we had on last year's tour, last year's trip, were absolutely brilliant, I have to say. Not only were they very good ski instructors, lots of lovely detail, listening to what they're saying to the girls, and I managed to spend time with all the different groups, from the beginners through to the intermediates, through to the advanced as well, and listening to how the ski instructors explained the detail of what they did and some of the tips and advice for the girls and body position, all these kind of things, was really impressive. And the main proof of it was the beginner groups, of which there was quite a large number last year, girls who'd never skied before at all of them without exception managed to get up the mountain by, I think it was day 4, day 5. So they had a day or two with what I would say is the full ski experience, getting up on a lift, getting to the top of the mountain, enjoying that amazing view that wherever you are in the skiing world, you always have, and the pleasure of coming down a slope, stopping for hot chocolate halfway down, all those kind of things. So that to me is testament to how good the instructors were too. Not just that, I have to say the way they bonded and the way they were with the girls was really impressive to see as well. The girls absolutely loved and adored them. They had a bit of banter and jokes together, and it was a really, really lovely atmosphere. So very impressive, but I think also important to make clear that we are not trained ski instructors, Surbiton High School staff, but these people are, and they are extremely good. They are brilliant at it as well. So that's the travel company, the ski company, if you like, that we will be using. Just to go through a little bit about what's actually included for the overall figures, basically really everything. It is an all-inclusive trip. So of course we give you the flights and transfers from the girls prep to and from the girls prep to the airport, and to and from the airport at the other end to the hotel as well. Easiest way to arrange it, we have buses that will pick us up from or a bus that will pick us up on the departure morning, taking us to Heathrow. It's usually Heathrow or Gatwick. And then at the other end of things, of course, after the flight, there'll be a bus that takes us from the airport to the hotel, and then it's completely in reverse coming home. So we'll have a pickup from Heathrow, if that's our arrival airport, back to Surbiton. I have a text messaging system that works whenever we're traveling, and I can give you updates. You know, we've landed, we've collected our baggage, we're now on the bus, we're hopefully, 20 minutes, half an hour away, those kind of things. And if there's any delays, I can give you updates on that as well. So that system usually works really well. It is 6 nights full board accommodation. So all meals are included, breakfast and dinner at the hotel, lunch up the mountain in one of the mountain restaurants as well. All of that is included. There's full ski hire as well. So the girls are not expected to bring ski boots or skis or poles or anything like that. But of course, they'll need to bring their own clothing. So ski jackets, salopettes, trousers, sportswear, casual wear for the evenings and so on. All of that, of course, they do need to take. But the actual ski equipment, so the skis, the boots, the poles, and the helmet, all of that we will provide. That is part of the package and will be hired by the company as well. Of course, it includes lift passes for the full area as well, so they can go all over the mountain, completely depending on their ability, of course. The advanced party will probably go further, of course, than the beginners, but everybody has full access to all of the pistes that are available there as well. And it's 5 days of full ski instruction as well. And just to be clear about that, that is before lunch, full course, if you like, of ski instruction, the lunch, which is included, as I mentioned, and there's skiing lessons after lunch as well. Typical day, we tend to finish around 3 p.m. or thereabouts. And we also have a full evening activity program as well, which we arrange, and also the instructors help us arrange as well. So after dinner, sometimes depending on whether it's an outdoor or an indoor event, we may go and do something straight after skiing. If it's something like snow tubing, for example, we'll do that and often then come back and have our dinner after that. But if it's something indoor, like a quiz night and so on, we'll probably do that after dinner. But every night we will have a activity program as well to keep the girls entertained, some kind of main activity, which we will give you further detail about in the new year as well. And also we do give the girls some pocket money. We tend to find around €10 is plenty. So that's what we'll be giving the girls. In addition to that, this year, some parents were giving the girls extra money on top of that. Of course, that's your choice. The only thing I'd say is that they will not need lots and lots, and we don't want the girls buying, tons and tons of sweets, treats, and all that kind of stuff. A few is fine, and actually to have them packed with them already tends to work really well. But we won't have time for airport spending, which was a frequent question from the trip that we just had. So all of that is included, and of course there is the now legendary ski trip hoodie that will be designed by the girls, and one given to everybody, usually with their initials printed on as well. And that was rather fun. The girls really enjoyed that. And actually, just from a practical point of view, we tend to go for a bright colour. Obviously helps us out enormously. When we're in a busy public place or an airport, we can spot the girls very easily. So there's that sort of that aspect to it as well. But the girls love having their hoodies, of course. Just to give you the sort of headlines, if you like, of the itinerary and confirm those dates for you. The departure will be Wednesday, the 20th of March, as it says there, and it'll be early in the morning. The one thing we don't have confirmed as yet is the actual flight time, which is why I was sort of between Heathrow and Gatwick, but it will be more than likely to be quite an early morning flight. And obviously we'll give you details of that when we have them. And we'll jump on the coach from school, go straight to the airport, take the flight, and then straight to the hotel. And it's the Hotel Ledzitla in Altenmark in Pongo. And for anyone who was on the trip this year, it is a different hotel. It's very much the same destination, the same village, but it is a different hotel, but it is literally right across the street from the hotel we were in. It's a slightly more modern hotel as well, looks rather lovely. So every other aspect is exactly the same. We are literally across the street. You could see the hotel very clearly from the hotel we're staying in this year. Everything else is the same. And a typical day there, as it outlines, we have both main meals in the hotel, and then we have 5 full days of skiing, 5 hours usually each day as well. A full lunch as well, proper cooked hot lunch every day too. And we usually allow time for a hot chocolate on the mountain as well. And then we come back for our evening activities, either before or after dinner, depending on what we're up to. And then the second travel day, I'd return, if you like, we will check out back on the coach, fly back to the UK, and then there'll be a coach from the airport back to school. And again, as I mentioned, we'll be giving you text updates. Of course, you'll know the scheduled arrival time well in advance, but I'll be texting you updates as much as I can to say we're actually on the coach now. We've got all our baggage. We're heading off. We're roughly half an hour away, and I'll give you kind of, updates so you can time your arrival to school and not be hanging about for too long. So those are the sort of main headlines, main dates for you to jot down as well. As I said, those dates are now confirmed. The one thing we haven't confirmed as yet is the exact flight, but there are lots of options as to what we might be doing, so that won't be an issue. Just to also confirm staff, it will be girls prep staff solely. This is just a girls prep trip. And we'll have a maximum of 50 girls on the trip. We can't have more than that, just with some of the logistics of the rooms in the hotel, the number of seats available on the coach and all those kind of things, but also to make the ratios work well. So we're looking to have 8 school staff on the trip, obviously myself, as well as a load of others. And that should work out at a ratio, will work out a ratio of 1 to 7. And that's just for Surbiton High School staff. As I mentioned there, the instructors are in addition to that too. And the instructors are around, of course, through the day. They're often around in the evenings as well. Pretty much every evening, there's at least a few instructors in the hotel and helping out and chatting with the girls and so on too. So there are plenty of responsible adults on hand should they be needed. When we're actually skiing, so in the day when we're actually skiing, the ski groups are led by an instructor, as I mentioned, but the staff members are very present, and there will always be a staff member available at the bottom of the nursery slope at all times through certainly the first few days until the girls then go up the mountain. Just in case, if there's anyone who's having a little bit of a wobble or anyone who isn't feeling very well and so on, we have people there that can scoop them up, not just the instructor, but an actual Surbiton member of staff. We're all obviously in touch. What we aim to do, what we tended to do last time was the Surbiton staff spread ourselves a little bit around the mountain. We would sometimes catch up with the different ski groups and very frequently see them on the mountain as well. And I tended to have a chat with the instructors every morning just to see where each group would be going. So I had a good idea and I could make sure I sort of bumped into them and came across them at various points through the day or through the week. So that tends to work really well, but the ski groups are led by the instructors. They're in charge very much during the day, and we're there to help out if we need it. And it is, of course, fully supervised at all times in the sort of downtime, if you like. So whenever we're off the mountain, Surbiton High School staff are very much there to the fore, in the hotel, on duty, looking after the girls. The girls do get a good amount of downtime as well, which is obviously much needed after a day skiing, so they can rest and relax and then get ready for dinner and get ready for their evening activities. But those are all run by us, and we're very present at all times through the trip as well. The snow staff, as I mentioned, the snow staff, the instructors are around, not just during the skiing actual days, but they do come into the restaurant, the hotel, and they like to chat to the girls. It's just useful to have extra pairs of hands around, of course. The air travel, again, yet to be confirmed, but we're looking at BA or Lufthansa. We used BA before, of course, good reputations, good safety records, sensible flight times as well. And we're looking at either an arrival flying into Munich or possibly Salzburg. That might cut down the coach travel time, but either way, it's not more than a couple of hours. And it was a very pleasant coach drive from Munich last time anyhow. So those would be one of those two airlines more than likely that we end up booking with, and obviously we'll confirm with you once we know that too. So on to, the actual accommodation. It's a family-run hotel, Hotel Lebensitler. Please forgive my pronunciation, which is very much traditional Austrian style. Very lovely village of Altenmark in Pongo, which is the top left photo there. Bottom right is the hotel itself. It's a very sweet village. It's not enormous, but it has plenty of good shops, nice bit of atmosphere, very pretty as well. I mean, the girls will obviously not be free to be wandering around the village, but we do have, there was a treasure hunt last year where the girls did explore, of course, fully supervised in groups. And then we also had a little trip to one of the local supermarkets where the girls could spend their pocket money, those €10, and buy a few little treats or buy whatever it is that they wanted to as well. So they did get to have a little bit of a bit of time out in the village as well. And of course, when we're on the bus going through, it's rather lovely to see all the old buildings and so on. Also, just to confirm, obviously 3 full meals as well, fully catered for all dietary requirements. And what we tend to do is take the dietary requirements from our MIS, which is our, of course, in-house computer system where we have all the girls' information on there. So if your daughter has specific dietary requirements, as long as the school knows, we obviously send all that information onto the hotel, onto the mountain restaurants and so on. So we are well aware of what the girls can and can't have. Also, we're looking at ensuite facilities. There will be ensuite facilities for every room as well. There's no communal bathrooms. Usually, it depends on the layout exactly of the rooms and how many people come, of course, but we're looking at between 2 to 5 girls in a room. And what we tend to do as well, just in case it's often a question that's asked, what we did last year, which worked really well, I gave the girls a list of every single girl that was coming on the trip, organised by class as well, because obviously that helps the girls see who's coming. And by then they knew anyhow, because we'd had various chats and meetings about it. And I asked the girls to tick 6 names for who they would like to be in a room with, on the proviso that we can promise one of those. We obviously try and accommodate as many as we can, but they will certainly have at least one of their friends in their room as well. But we also do explain to the girls, and I'd say to you as well, that the rooms are for sleeping in. The girls are tired and they tend to crash out in their rooms. Anything sort of socializing, dinners, breakfast, and so on, the girls have their choice, of course, as to who they sit with and everything else. So that there's nothing to do with the rooms that they are in. And certainly by night 2, usually night 1, there's a bit of excitement, of course. By night 2, once they've had a day skiing, the girls are tired and they tend to just crash out. But we do give the girls some choice on their rooms and who's going to be in their room buddies and so on as well. And of course, it's fully supervised. So there's staff members on the corridor, not far away at all. And we clearly mark the staff rooms as well. So their girls will know exactly where we are. If they need us for whatever reason, whatever time of day or night, they know exactly where they can come and whose door they can knock on. The ski area where we'll actually be is the Ski Armade, which is a part of the actual World Cup Grand Prix circuit. And I think that's important. Full facilities as well. So it's a very big, very well organized area with a great big central hub. Those of you not familiar with it, but quite a modern central hub where a lot of the lifts radiate out up the mountains from. In that central hub, there's a number of shops and various things, but it does also include a medical center as well. And I mentioned that for obvious reasons. Sometimes parents do ask if anything was to happen. The instructors fully assess the situation. They are medically trained, of course, as well. And they would make the first assessment. If they feel that further medical assistance is needed, of course, there's the mountain rescue who can be easily summoned. They would take them to the main hub medical center, which is really not far away at all. It is right down the bottom of all the main lifts. So the girls would not have to go down the mountain and out of the ski area. Clearly, if it was something, very serious, then it might be they've been transferred on. But of course, fingers crossed, that wouldn't be something that we would require. But there are full medical facilities available in the main ski hub area as well. And so that tends to be how all that works. And Zauchensee as an area as a whole, so Ski Armade is part of that. Zauchensee has, as you can see there, the numbers, a very large number of pistes. And I think the key thing there is it's a really good area for all sorts of different abilities. We had a number of girls come this year. Out of it was close to 50. We had somewhere around 20, I think it's just shy of 20, who were absolute beginners, who may have done a dry slope possibly once, maybe not at all. And they went all the way through the whole sort of preparation of how to get ready and everything like that. We helped out with that. And the instructors just took it from there. And those girls, all of them managed to get up the mountain onto sort of full runs from a lift by the end of the week. And they were having an absolute blast as well. Even despite maybe some day 1, day 2 slight wobbles, actually those girls just were having the best time as they shouted at me as they ski past me on a regular basis as well. So it's a really good area for all different abilities. There's plenty for intermediates, which is where I'd probably see myself. And there's a good number of much more advanced slopes as well, and ski areas too. So if your daughter falls into that category, their instructor has plenty that they can offer and plenty of slopes that will give them the right level of challenge and so on, and excitement too. But there is a fully fledged beginners area as well, and that's down the bottom of the mountain, of course, and that's where a staff member will be every single day as well. And it's near the restaurant facilities and the main hub and all those kind of things too. So that's really, really well run. And it's a very friendly, very good beginners area for the girls to get their confidence up and so on. The hire, as I've mentioned, so it's all the main ski equipment, the skis, the boots, the poles and the helmet. The clothing, anything that would be deemed as clothing, so jackets, salopettes, base layers, etc., would not be included. But anything actual physical equipment, if you like, that would be very much something that we would provide. And the way that it runs is when we arrive, we tend to arrive sometimes sort of early mid-afternoon, and the ski gear is there ready and waiting for us, and it's then fitted as well. So there's people there from the shop who come to the hotel. We have it fitted. We don't need to try and get 50 girls or thereabouts through a shop with members of the public around as well. I certainly wouldn't fancy necessarily doing that. The shop comes to us, if you like, which is brilliant. They get a lot of information before we arrive in terms of height and weight and all those kind of things. And the equipment was brilliant. And of course, as any good ski company would do or hire company would do, if there's any issues through the week, anything needs to be changed or different and so on, absolutely not a problem. And that was easily done, and the instructors very easily arranged and coordinated all that as well. And the ski school itself, just to confirm, they're all DBS checked, they're fully qualified, fully fledged, trained snow style instructors, and they've gone through various different courses to do that. And again, just final confirmation of a typical day. So we have usually around about 9 o'clock we would start the actual skiing, ski through to around about 11:30, 12 o'clock, depends on the group and obviously where they've gone, how far away and so on. And then the groups would all have lunch. Usually the first couple of days, they're generally all together. After that, the more advanced group tends to go a little bit further, so they might have lunch a little later, but as their group. And the service and staff would very much be around for that as well. And then after lunch, we would have further ski lessons, the girls have further ski lessons, and we usually aim to finish around about 3 o'clock to get the bus back down the mountain to the hotel where the girls can just, shower off, rest, relax, etc. So we also have really good relationships, or the ski company particularly have very good relationships with the mountain restaurants. So we have areas booked. It's not just trying to turn up and find ourselves tables for 50. They have a proper area that is booked and booked out every day for the girls. And it certainly tends to be the same area all the time, unless we obviously head to different restaurants up the mountain. But the instructors and the ski company organise all that for us as well. And the food is fabulous. I was super impressed, and I'm quite fussy about my food. But it was lovely, and really lovely Austrian cuisine as well, if you wanted to do that. But there's good old, good old food for the girls if they are maybe not quite as adventurous. There's things that they can go for as well. As I mentioned earlier, all diets and all requirements are met as well. But it's really important, and we do stress to the girls, particularly breakfast, but also for their lunch and dinner as well. It's a very physical activity, skiing, of course. They're going to need to eat well and eat properly. And the restaurants are well aware of that and cater for that really well too. And then we're looking at evening entertainment. These are just some of the things we typically do. Some of it, of course, is weather dependent if it's outside. Last year, we were aiming to do snow tubing and things like that, but in the village itself, slight issue that there wasn't actually any snow. So snow tubing was a little bit of a mission. But fingers crossed this year, there'll be a slightly better weather in the village itself. Up the mountain, snow was great, but down in the village wasn't so good. But those are the typical things that we'd be looking at doing. I'm not even going to try and go near a pronunciation for the top one. But if you think skittles on ice, that's probably a good way to think. But safely, I might add that word in there as well, safely doing skittles on ice. But that looked rather fun too. The snow park, the snowball fight, I will absolutely insist that we do that again. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. The girls loved it last year. Full on snowball fight. They were still in all their kit as well. Didn't have to take part, but some of the girls that sat out initially were wading in towards the middle and the end when they got a chance to throw snowballs at their teachers and the instructors as well. It was too good an opportunity for them to miss, and it's just brilliant fun. And I think I've already mentioned the shopping, that we go to a local supermarket, which the girls really enjoy. There's typically a pizza night with a quiz night attached. We do an end of trips presentation as well. Lots of good fun stuff as well. We know the girls are going to be tired, but we also want to keep them a little bit busy too. So we'll read the situation. It's fully adaptable, fully adjustable. If the girls are shattered, then we may take a view and just revise what we're doing in the evening a little bit. But there's lots of great things there. Also keeping in touch, just a couple of key points here too. We will set up, it's run by Seesaw, but it's not a Seesaw account. You don't need a username and password or anything like that. But it is a blog that I'll run and very happily post photos and a few videos and so on to keep you aware of what the girls have been up to. And I'll try and make sure that I get a photo of the girls, every girl, at least once every day, even if it's just a meal time. That's often a good time to get them, just so that, of course, you can see your daughter and rest assured that she's, well, enjoying herself and hopefully a beaming smile and so on. But it's a password protected Seesaw blog. So, of course, we will give you the password. You're welcome to share it with friends, relatives, and so on. But of course, I wouldn't share it too widely. But if they're relatives and friends that want to see it too, well, of course, that's your decision to make. But it is password protected, so it's not open to general public. But it's run by Seesaw, so it's got all that functionality. We can comment on it. We can put video clips on. We can put loads of photos on, etc. And for anyone that went on the trip this year, or if you know anyone that went on the trip this year, hopefully they have good things to say about that. Because what we also say, and part of the reason for it, is that we do ask that the girls do not bring any devices with them. So we ask that the girls do not bring a phone, they do not bring an iPad, and in fact go further and say anything with cellular or Wi-Fi connectivity. We would say no, please, for several reasons. Number one, we think it's important the girls actually get a chance to have a break and come away and not be worried about contact and all those kind of things. I think it's very good for them just to fully rest and relax and enjoy being with their friends. Obviously, we can reassure you via the blog that all is well and that you've seen your daughter on hopefully a number of occasions through the day in photos and so on. But of course, if there's anything that's of concern or anything happens at home that needs to be relayed, well, of course, you can get hold of the staff members. And there's a designated staff member in the UK who will be the point of contact as well. So all of that tends to work really well. But there's plenty of contact, there's plenty of opportunity for you to see what the girls have been up to. And I spend a good amount of time in the evenings. I actually really enjoy doing it because it's quite a nice way of recapping. But I collect the photos in from all the instructors and collect photos in from staff members and make sure I've obviously taken a load myself. And I'll put as many of those as I physically can on Seesaw, so you get a good chance to have a good look and see what the girls have been up to. And that includes skiing, it includes the evening activities, includes the quiz night, includes whatever it is that we've been up to as well. So you get a full view from that as well. Just a few more admin style things, but really important points to make as well. Obviously, if you are interested in coming, please check the passport expiry date, because it does need to be valid for 6 months from the date of arrival. So the date of arrival plus 6 months, you need to have at least that on the expiry date, please. Check it now, and if there's any doubt or if there's any it's a little close, please apply now. Mine last year, funny enough, I was within the 6 months, but by about a couple of weeks. So I thought, well, actually, I may as well renew it. It was actually really super simple and easy to do, but I'm very glad I did it in advance, because there are all sorts of stories in the press about delays and disruption at the passport office, all those kind of things. I didn't want to take any chances, but it was very simple and easy to do. Please check that. Also, if you are not a UK GB passport holder, just double check any visas that might need to be applied for, depending on what passport you hold. Please just double check that, what the Austrian requirements are. And any visas you'd obviously need to apply for well in advance, please. And we do ask for all details as well. We ask for passport numbers, we ask for visas, we ask for the global health insurance card, all those details we'll obviously need to have to hand. And then we collect, typically we'll collect the passports in roughly a week before, so that we can obviously make sure we have everything and there's no last minute dramas and all those kind of things too. And we are fully responsible for your daughter's passport. We'll obviously hand back not just your daughter, but also your daughter's passport at the end of the trip as well. And we also just make sure, sometimes last year, a couple of people commented that we were leaving quite early, given it was a whatever time it was flight, but we do need extra time to pass through security, border checks, get through the airport, with around about 50 girls as well to shepherd. But the girls were brilliant last year. They were so super excited to be there. They listened really well to us. It was all very clear and easy. And of course, a lot of the girls are not unfamiliar with going through airports at all. But maybe they hadn't done it sort of by themselves, even though they're by themselves with a whole bunch of friends and teachers as well. But that's why we tend to leave a good amount of time to get ourselves through airports and all that kind of stuff. Just to confirm figures, it's still an approximate cost, but it's going to be in the order of £1,700, and that covers absolutely everything that we've outlined as well. There are no extra additional costs on top. Hoodies, all those kind of things are included. We've put an allowance in there for that. And in terms of insurance, if you have your own travel insurance, well, fine, but there is fully comprehensive, fully sorted skiing, winter sports, if you like, insurance that's provided by the school as well. So there's no need to have your own. All the girls will be covered by that too. And then in terms of if you're interested and keen to take this further, which of course I hope that you are, which is a fabulous trip, you're looking at by Thursday, the 15th of June, which is, where are we now, roughly a week or so, to make your deposit, please, the £400 by that date. And then the schedule for the remainder payments will be added to the next 2 terms. So autumn and spring term will be £650 each, to then take you up to the 1,700. And there's also an in-person rather than a virtual parents' evening planned for January. Date obviously will be confirmed to you, where you're welcome to come into the Runcie Hall and chat to us in person as well. I'll be giving a little presentation of what we're doing, some of it similar content, but there's a few little bits that we can confirm for you as well. And if you have any questions, if you have anything you want to chat about, obviously more than welcome. Leave myself there. I'm sure Mrs. McCabe Arnold will be there as well, as she is this evening too, and she's available for any questions too if needed. And by that stage, we'll also know exactly who the teachers are that are coming, and we can confirm all that to you as well. So that's kind of the main headlines really, but that's a date for your diary for sometime in January, but we'll let you know a little closer to the time as well. So hopefully that's covered most things, but really I guess now to throw it back over to you. If there's anything that you'd like a little more detail on, anything I haven't quite covered, do just let me know, please. There we go. And I have a very kind technical person, John, who is helping me out. So I'm hoping he's going to jump in and let me know how to respond or read out questions for me. Ah, there we are. Hello, John. Thank you.
We have no questions as of yet.
No questions as of yet. Goodness me. It must have been a very comprehensive, amazing talk that I've just given. But please, if there are any questions, please do shout. Of course, you've got a week or so, just over a week, to make your deposit. If there's anything that occurs to you in between, by all means, email, let me know, etc.
One question is, how do we pay the deposit?
Very good question. Not being fully admin focused myself, that is something, if Mrs. Farr was here, I'd ask Mrs. Farr and she would tell me straight away. But I would say we will make that clear to you. We will get that out to you if you're interested at a later date as well. Apologies for not giving you a full answer on that.
How many are in each ski group?
Very good question. I think it depends on how many of the different abilities. We ask a sort of main question before the ski trip departs, which is, and I think we've actually already asked it, what level of experience your daughter has. And that helps the instructors make a very preliminary grouping, but that grouping is completely fluid and remains fluid through the week. So as an example, this year we had 6 different instructors. There were 2 and actually 3, I think, to start with, that were focused on the beginner groups. From memory, there were certainly no more than 10 in a group. So they're relatively small size groups. And it depends on the ability as to where they go, but it's a good level of exposure to the instructors. And if they need more, if this group, if you like, that's coming skiing this year is more beginner focused, there'll be more instructors for beginners. If it's more intermediate, then that's where they'll be. And if it's more advanced, well, of course, that's where they'll be. And through the week, if the girls make massive improvements or needs adjustments going up or down groups, all of that is completely fluid, and the instructors will move anyone that needs to be moved very happily.
If more than 50 girls sign up, what happens?
Really good question. We will have to make a decision on 50 has to be a cap. We can't take more than that, I'm afraid. So what we'll look at is things like year 6s potentially having a little priority because, of course, it's their last year, their last chance to come on the trip. We may also take into account whether someone has been on the trip before, whether someone hasn't, those sorts of things. But I think I'm right in saying that the numbers, they were only just a little over 50 as we currently stand. So hopefully there won't be any 2 disappointed parties. Last year we did have a reserve list, which actually was very useful because we did have a couple of people withdraw for personal reasons later on. So 2 reserves 2 slots were opened up for those people as well.
And do you take into account the view of the Surbiton ski team?
Do we take into account the view of the Surbiton ski team? Yes, we do ask them for any feedback on the girls, but ultimately the decision is down to the instructors who are there, our instructors for the week. But yes, I do chat to the Surbiton ski team and ask them for any thoughts as to what the girls have been up to, and they'll give us some views on any experience and things like that as well.
Is the trip done every year for years 4 to 6 girls?
This is the second time we've done it. So I think the aim is, fingers crossed, if all goes well and it's a popular thing, that yes, we would be doing it for forthcoming years as well, but it obviously depends on numbers and things. But we think also that years 4 to 6 is a good age to take. While it'd be lovely, and I'm a year 2 teacher myself, and while I'd love to have some of the girls I currently teach come along on the trip, I do feel that it's possibly a tiny bit, they may be a tiny bit too young to come on such a large trip, which does require quite a degree of independence as well.
Are the boys prep joining this year?
No, the boys prep are not. The trip we're planning is completely girls prep focused. I know at the end of our trip last year, at the beginning of the term, the following term, the boys prep were very keen and asking lots of questions and all those sorts of things. And I think there is interest potentially for them to do a trip, but as far as I'm aware, it hasn't gone any further than any interest. And even if it did, it wouldn't impact our trip at all. We would still be in the same hotel. Our hotel, one thing I didn't mention, sorry, is sole occupancy. So we would be just us there. There's no members of the public there. And certainly if the boys decided to come on any trip, it'd be for them to organise. Even if they did decide to come to the same resort, it's very unlikely they get the same weeks and the same bookings, but they most certainly wouldn't be in the same hotel. That just wouldn't be feasible.
If more than 50 apply, how do you decide on who gets the space? Is it first come, first served?
Well, I think there is a large element of that, yes, absolutely. But I think if we are very oversubscribed, in the interest of fairness, I think I mentioned earlier, we may look at some level of priority being given to the year sixes, given it's their last year. And we may also look at if someone has been on the trip before versus someone who hasn't. But yeah, I think it's, if you are interested, certainly the sooner you let us know, the better, I would say.
That seems to be it for the moment.
Good stuff. We'll give it a few more moments. But as I mentioned, if anything suddenly occurs, do you think, oh, I should have asked this, please, I'm here, very happy for emails or contact the school and it'll find its way, the email or whatever will find its way to me. A number of you obviously know me, I'm sure, from previous. If you see me around school or pick up time, drop off time, please grab me for a few minutes. Certainly new parents, girls who are starting in September, by all means, if you email the school, then the email will find me, that will be forwarded on, and I'll very happily answer any questions that you might have as well.
Oh, sorry, one question. Sure. What was the breakdown by year last year, roughly?
Good question. I would say, from memory, it was certainly majority was year six. I would say certainly half, if not slightly more than half, was year six. And we had about 7 or 8 from year 5, and we had about, I think it was 6 or so from year 4. So it was a good number from year 6, certainly. But I think that may change this year. It's obviously been something that's much more, the girls are much more aware of, because we gave an assembly on the ski trip when we came back from it too. So I know there's a little more interest that way. Quite whether that will be the case this year, who knows? There's certainly no, we don't have any kind of ratios necessarily in mind, other than if we have to settle places, if there's more than 50 people, as I mentioned, we may look at, and I'm saying may because it's not a certainty, but we may look at some priority being given to year sixes, given that it's their last year in school and they don't have any further chance to come on this particular trip, of course.
When will we be given the details to transfer the first instalment?
That's a good question, and apologies, it's very similar to the first question that was asked. I don't have that information to hand, but I know we can get that out very quickly to you. I also know that there is a letter that is ready to go in the Friday letters, the letters that get sent out, that I'm sure will have that detail in. I'm also conscious, and I can probably hear some of the new parents saying, well, we may not get that. We will make sure that for the new starters in September, that information is sent to you as well. So you should have that in a Friday communication, I'm sure.
No more questions.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, parents. If you're still there, don't worry if you've tuned out. I won't take it personally, completely fair enough. But thank you all very much. And as I said, if there's any further questions or something that suddenly occurs to you later on, please, you know where I am. You can email me or bump into me in school, whatever. Absolutely no problem at all. Lovely. Thank you all very, very much. Looking forward to a fabulous trip. Thank you.